Thank you, Madam President. We have pending in committee Council Order 2017-6, which is in appropriation for $60,000 to the Health Department for pest control. I see joining us here this evening in the audience the Health Commissioner, Andrew Shealy. So we welcome Drew to the microphone and give us some perspective or some story we have to this evening. Great. Floor is yours.
Mr. Shealy, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come before this body. As you know, back in the budget cycle that we just did for 2017, I requested $20,000 for pest control. The city of Quincy was taking a very unusual step to actually properties and bait because of the rat infestation that we've had within the city. So my office was tagged doing that. We've gone out and to date we've inspected probably well over 300 to 400 individual private properties within the city. Out of those 300 to 400, we baited roughly around 150 of them. Each time we go out to bait, each house is different. Depends upon how many bait stations are there, how many trips they have to make. Average cost is the original baiting is $75 per house. Depends upon if they have a really bad problem, it could be 150, it could be 225, depending upon the number of bait stations that are there, and then depending upon the number of visits that they make. Each time they make a visit to the location every 10 to 12 days, it's another $50, depending upon again the number of boxes. It could increase. And for the most part, bait stations are there for roughly around 30 to 40 days. During that time, we've also been asked to look at all of the public buildings within the city of Quincy, the fire stations, DPW yard, police station. So my office has also been tasked to go out and bait those areas too where we've seen problems. So currently I have expanded have spent the $20,000 that was originally given to me now. And so going forward, I believe that come the springtime, I will see an uptick in activity and calls. People will be out in the yard, they'll be looking around, they'll see holes, they'll ask us to come out. I wouldn't want to come up and ask for a lesser amount and then have to come back up here a third time in, late May or whenever, especially near the end of the budget cycle. Whatever is left out of this $60,000 will go right back into the free cash account at the end of the year.
Great. Thank you, Drew. I just want to say, I've called you several times for constituents and sometimes other issues, and you've always been responsive, particularly with the rat issue, and I know this is something of great concern to so many residents, and so I appreciate the work of your department and your work, and I'm happy to support this, but we do need a motion. You don't have a motion?
No, I just, on the motion,
Oh, do you want to make a motion?
oh,
To approve?
no, ask questions first.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Okay, okay, motion to approve by Councilor Palmucci, seconded by Councilor Forrest. On the motion, Councilor
Process,
Lang.
yeah, a little over my head, I apologize. Thank you. I just want to second Madam President's sentiment on the work that you do in the city and really commend your efforts. You've given out your personal cell phone, to every resident I've brought to you, and I think that's really important to have a direct line of communication. I know that you have been on site yourself, again, Monday through Friday, day and night, on the weekends as well. And again, to address this issue citywide, doing it yourself, I know that you have a phenomenal team as well. And I think it's really amazing that you're doing it. So if we can multiply you and help you address the issue, that'd be great. But that being said, I know that you're not just going out there and baiting it and addressing it after the fact. You're also doing prevention with education in multiple languages across the city, which I think is really important. That being said, I do understand why you need more than that $20,000 to continue addressing this problem, because it's not been eradicated yet. And in fact, I think as much as it's decreased in the number of calls, we are still getting a number of them. So it's something that we do need to take care of and be mindful of. That being said, though, with the $60,000 that gets approved today, I don't know if this would be directed to you or to Susan. How much do we have left in the free cash account right now?
There is currently $693,000 left in the free cash.
Okay, And, thank you. And Judy, so that out of the 60,000 is not spent by the end of this fiscal year, and we're back into that.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not spent by the end of
June
June?
30th.
Okay. That was it, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Councilor Devon.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to elaborate a little bit on, Drew, good to see you. You're doing a great job. All the people that I've talked to, emails, phone calls, Drew gets on it right away, over the weekends, anytime. Just to kind of look back on, you said 300, 400 calls and paid about 150. Because we kind of have a kind of a light winter so far, thus far, where are we kind of, is there a frost period where these baited or furrows start to be more of a problem for the city? Are you seeing that compared to last season, 2016 winter, compared to now, are we going in the better direction, or do you see us going kind of the same or backwards? Where do you think we are as for last year compared to this year?
I think we're doing a better job because we do have the ability to go out there and bait more frequently. Again, we're always going to have rats in the city when it's a natural environment. All I want to do is make sure that we control them and we don't have them in residential areas, that they are where they're supposed to be. Seawalls, marshes, areas like that, that's where the natural homes are. So I definitely think that we have a good handle on it, and I think by adding these funds, it will just make it that much easier come the spring to be able to, stay on top of it.
Do you, when you go out to these sites, are you currently seeing these rats?
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing them.
Oh, yeah.
Are they big?
There's babies too.
Babies too, so.
I always like them when I see babies too. That means the mother and the father are gone already, and they're out there looking for their own, on their own now, so that's a good thing.
Is there a mechanism to go after that, like you just said,
By baby.
by baiting? And do you see that? Let me ask you another question. This is more towards the recycling, the trash barrel system that we are proposing to come into, and which I could ask Mr. Walker if we're going to get into that in the next few months. Would that be a help
I think that would be a help.
percentage-wise? What more of a help do you think it would be?
I think by having every single resident have their trash in barrels, it reduces the food source for it. So I think it would be a huge asset.
Now, when you say that, because we don't have an ordinance on the barrels, so somebody can just go out and just put the trash in a bag on
You can put your trash out in a bag and point it pick up.
And to elaborate a little bit more on that, this is more on the trash end. Is it also for storing the trash over the week before you put it out for trash day? Do you think it would help, the side of the house that you have all these barrels?
Absolutely.
And, there's a whole nother avenue, and if I could, can I ask the mayor's representative, Ken Drew?
Go ahead.
How we propose for this trash barrel system, and I know we just had the state of the city, and, we really didn't talk about much going into budget season, and if we were looking to possibly put this into the budget or possibly bond it, what are your thoughts and information you have?
Through you, Madam President, thanks, Councilor, for that.
Thank you.
It is a fairly complicated process. So before we, DPW, Commissioner Armani and John Sullivan, Director of the Programs, come before this body with a full-fledged proposal, we want to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, that we have an extensive, workable solution here that includes not just the barrels, but as you mentioned, Councilor, there's probably going to be the necessity of some sort of ordinances that go along with it. So there are a number of moving parts here that go along with this. I guess the short answer is that I would expect that the proposal before this body within the next couple of months. And that would include, again, the barrel purchase. And don't hold us to this, I guess, at this point, but the thought is that barrels would be bonded, but the payback would come out of potentially the DPW, the savings that we would get potentially from the revised contract. If we're recycling more, it costs us less, and that savings would then be able to be built back into what the cost for the barrels are. But again, there are a lot of moving parts, and we're not home yet. We're very close, and we expect to have it before you within the next couple of months.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. On top of that, the savings, it's an investment that we're talking about here. We keep on allocating funding for the rat situation here. This is going to be $60,000. If we could go in the other direction and not have to allocate as much, not have as much rat infestation in these barrels, we'd be in a better situation that way. And on top of the recycling that Mr. Walker was talking about, we could save between $300,000 and $600,000 a year just by recycling more and less trash. Less trash, maybe less rats.
Less of a food source.
Less of a food source. So any way we look at it, and it's nothing against our municipality, we're a little lagging behind in this, where all the other municipalities around us have already done this trash barrel system. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this down the road, but you wouldn't have to, I would think that you might not have to come back to us again for more allocation of funding.
I agree.
You agree, okay. And I've talked to the Commissioner Romani that's here as well about this, and I think this is across the board a win-win for all different departments. And maybe you wouldn't get as many calls late at night.
I agree.
But I want to thank the Mayor's representative, Mr. Walker, for elaborating on the information tonight. I want to thank you, Drew, for all your hard work. I mean, it's not an easy situation out there with these rats and the infestation, but I know you've been on a lot of community meetings throughout the city of Quincy, and you're educating everybody about keeping the barrels on and the food source, and I want to thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, okay, Councilor Thomas.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for you, Drew, just on that barrel debate. Thank you, Councilor Vaughn, for raising that issue, I think, at the beginning of the budget process last season, so probably about May. So in the 9 or so months that the administration's been working on it, and I don't think we've seen any plans for it. I look forward to seeing that when it comes out. But certainly, as Councilor Vaughn mentioned, there are other towns that have done this, and some have implemented it well, and others, I wouldn't support implementing it that way. I don't know what the mayor's, what the administration's thinking on it is, but certainly wouldn't support any type of trash fee. In no way would I support a trash fee. And I would hate to see that be proposed, so we'll leave it at that. We'll wait to see what the mayor's proposing, but I wouldn't support a trash fee. And I would do everything I could to prevent a trash fee. But a couple of questions for you, Mr. Shealy. When you were last up before us during the budget process, you had some statistics in terms of how many properties you did like an Excel spreadsheet, I think. Right, but you knew how many properties you'd been out to in like the last fiscal year or so. I think you were keeping track of how many times you've been out to properties more than once, right? Yes?
Yes.
So is this based on a calculation of what you're anticipating? I'm trying to get a little bit to thinking the numbers, because I thought the 20,000 was going to get us through. If you're saying it's not, obviously rats are a problem. Nobody wants rats, so I'm going to support the funding. But I just want to make sure where we're getting the number from. That there's something behind it, and like you said, I'd rather ask for a little bit more now than come back up, because I'll probably bust your chops a little bit more if you come back up for a third time and ask for some more money. But so, do you think you have it with this number?
I think that will happen with this.
Okay.
Based on what I spent in the first 6 months of this year, going forward, I know that come the springtime, I am going to see an uptick, and I would just hate to be short coming, in the middle of May, where I have to tell a resident, geez, you know what, I'm not going to be out until August or July 1st when I get more funding, so you'll be on your own for the first 6 weeks.
Cancel your garden party, we'll see you in a month.
Yeah.
We don't want that. Right, okay. And in terms of how we're applying this, is just you going out and doing this for the most part?
It's myself and my staff. I
mean, I know you've been great every
Yeah,
time.
my housing inspectors go out, my sanitarians, my food inspectors go out,
So I know,
and myself.
I know from any time that I've called you, obviously it's an issue that comes up from Ward Council. Anytime I've called you, you've been great, your department's been great. The folks that you're interacting with. I'll call and check in on them, and they'll say, oh, you know, he was so nice, he came out, he helped me. We give them the whole tutorial, which I'm sure we've given 1,000 times now, about clearly giving it to Councilor DeBona, about the food sources, the water sources. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I'm happy to support this and continuing that work. But I wonder, should we be looking at bigger solutions? You know, you gave us some invoices from like Ladybug, right? How often are we calling Ladybug versus you guys are doing something? And is there much of a difference? I mean, I don't think the last 2 seasons I've paid a private person to come out and bait the properties around me. And I mean, it looks relatively easy. I don't want to do it. I'm happy to pay someone to do it, but it looks relatively easy. You're just putting out and coming back and checking them and making sure. But are we, a horrible question, but are we losing anything in having you do it? Would we be better off spending more money by having Ladybug or contracting with another contractor to have them go out on a regular basis is the question?
Well, currently, Ladybug only goes out when we go out with, we go out with Ladybug. And we actually go out first, do the inspection. If we identify burrows on the property, then I usually make it, if it's myself or my staff, we call Ladybug, or we also use Clancy Brothers.
Okay, so you're actually not playing the bait boxes?
No.
All right, I thought you were.
No, not me at all, no. Licensed professionals are.
Okay, all right. Okay, you think we're on top of this in terms of getting ahead of the curve?
I
It's
think
a
we
breeding
are.
thing, right? I mean, the more they are, the more they breed, it's an exponential problem, you don't, but are we?
I think we're turning the corner on it. So, and especially with the mild winter that we're having this year, I think that's a good thing for us.
And I'll come with it. And in terms of education, have you been doing additional outreach moving forward or continuing the outreach that you're doing?
Again, when we do go out, if we do find that, you know, so a lot of times we'll go out and we'll talk with the neighbor, or we'll talk with the complainant, and they'll say, well, you know, my neighbor over here, I think is part of the problem, so.
It's never the person that calls that's the problem, I've found anyways. It's always the neighbor who keeps their trash out, or the neighbor who's got a bird feeder, or.
And when we identify the neighbor, we identify the language that they speak, and then we go out there with the proper translator.
And have you had to do any enforcement in terms of, because you have the right to write citations, right,
For dumpsters.
for dumpsters, but don't you have health code violations? Say someone is letting the dogs defecate in the backyard, not cleaning it up, and that's what's causing the rats to come because it's a food source. Can you write?
Write a ticket.
All right, can building?
Fine. Building department can.
Okay, are you working with them to?
We work with building department, Ken Burke, and animal control on that.
Okay. All right, well, good. I mean, keep up the good work. I'm glad to hear you think we're getting ahead of it. I guess we'll see in the spring when the calls come in.
They will.
Yeah, we do. So, thank you.
Councilor King.
Thanks, Madam President. I just wanted to thank you, Drew, for all your work and attention to this issue. I know that Ward 3 has been affected by this pretty dramatically. Every call that I get, you respond without haste. So thank you very much for this. We need to make sure that we're taking care of it because it's a disgusting issue. As you said, the rats aren't going away. I think that people should be mindful of that. And, you know, just continue. We put out information. We'll continue to put out more information so that people understand the precautions and measures they can take to shore up their homes so that there aren't food sources and water sources to keep these things alive. And you should also watch a documentary that Drew and I were just talking about recently called Rats, if you can stomach it. It was quite possibly the most disgusting yet eye-opening piece of media that I've watched recently by Morgan Spurlock. So look that up and watch on demand if you will. Thank you.
Councilor King. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Council King.
Yes.
Council Crowe.
Yes.
Council Vaughn.
Yes.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council LaFarge.
Yes.
Council Leeang.
Yes.
Council Calhoun.
Yes.
President Hughes.
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.